Ever wonder why countries are always talking about debt and borrowing? The global debt crisis affects everyone, from governments to everyday people. Simply put, it's when nations borrow more money than they can realistically pay back, piling up massive debts that impact economies worldwide. High borrowing leads to higher interest, tighter budgets, and sometimes even financial instability that can ripple across the globe. In the next few minutes, we'll break down this complex issue in simple terms, so you'll understand why the world's debt problem matters and what it means for you. Today we will talk about global debt crisis explained in simple terms. So before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. Understanding debt. What it really means. Debt is essentially borrowed money that must be paid back, usually with interest. While most people are familiar with personal debt, like mortgages, credit cards, or student loans, countries also borrow money to finance their needs. Governments borrow to fund infrastructure projects, social programs, or to stabilize their economies during tough times. This borrowing usually comes from other countries. International organizations like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, or World Bank, or even private investors. In itself, borrowing is not a problem. It becomes concerning when a country accumulates more debt than it can reasonably manage, setting the stage for a global debt crisis. 2. The scale of global debt. The global debt crisis is massive. According to the Institute of International Finance, global debt across governments, households, and corporations surpassed $300 trillion in 2023. To put that into perspective, that's more than 3 times the world's annual economic output. Countries like the United States, Japan, and China carry enormous debts. But even developing nations face increasing debt burdens due to loans for infrastructure or emergency funding. When debt grows faster than the economy's ability to produce wealth, it becomes increasingly difficult to service, that is, to pay back both the principal and interest, creating the risk of defaults and economic instability. 3. How countries borrow money. Countries borrow money in different ways. Sovereign bonds are the most common method. These are essentially IOUs sold to investors who get paid back with interest over time. Governments can also borrow directly from international institutions like the IMF or World Bank. Developing countries often turn to external loans to fund development projects, but high interest rates or unfavorable loan conditions can make repayment challenging. In times of crisis, like natural disasters, pandemics, or wars, countries may borrow more to stabilize their economies, which can exponentially increase debt levels. Understanding how countries borrow helps explain why global debt is a complex problem, not just a simple matter of overspending. 4. Causes of the global debt crisis. Several factors contribute to the global debt crisis. One major factor is excessive government spending without matching revenue. Another is economic shocks, such as recessions, pandemics, or conflicts, which reduce income while increasing the need for government support. Currency fluctuations also play a role. If a country borrows in foreign currency and its own currency devalues, repayment becomes more expensive. Additionally, low interest rates over the past decade have encouraged borrowing. But once interest rates rise, the cost of servicing debt skyrockets. Structural issues such as corruption or poor fiscal management can worsen the problem, making it harder for countries to regain control over their finances. 5. Consequences of high debt. High debt has serious consequences for both countries and their citizens. Governments often have to divert money from essential services like healthcare, education, or infrastructure to pay interest on debt. This can slow economic growth and reduce living standards. In extreme cases, countries may default on their loans, damaging their credibility and making future borrowing more difficult and expensive. The ripple effects are global. If a major economy struggles with debt, international trade, investment, and even financial markets can be affected. For example, the European debt crisis in the 2000s showed how one country's debt problems can spread and create uncertainty across entire regions. 6. Debt relief and solutions. Addressing the global debt crisis is not straightforward, but several strategies exist. Debt restructuring allows countries to renegotiate terms with creditors, potentially lowering interest rates or extending repayment timelines. Debt forgiveness, where part or all of the debt is written off, is sometimes applied, especially for highly indebted developing countries. Economic reforms aimed at improving revenue collection, reducing unnecessary spending, and promoting sustainable growth are also key. International institutions often play a role in coordinating solutions, but political challenges and economic realities make these efforts complex. The goal is always to ensure countries can meet their debt obligations without stifling growth or harming citizens. 7. The role of international organizations like the IMF, World Bank, and G20 play a crucial role in monitoring and managing global debt. They provide funding, technical assistance, and policy guidance to help countries avoid defaults or navigate crises. For instance, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many international bodies offered emergency loans to prevent economic collapse in vulnerable nations. However, critics argue that some international loans come with stringent conditions that can limit a country's autonomy or prioritize repayment over social welfare. Despite this, coordinated international efforts are vital because debt is a global issue. The default of one country can trigger economic shocks worldwide. 8. Why the global debt crisis matters to you. Even if you're not a government official or investor, the global debt crisis affects everyone. High national debt can slow economic growth, increase taxes, and reduce government services. It can also create financial instability that impacts job markets, inflation, and interest rates on personal loans or mortgages. Understanding debt helps citizens and policymakers make informed decisions, advocate for responsible fiscal management, and prepare for economic fluctuations. By keeping debt levels sustainable and promoting transparency, nations can safeguard their economies and the well-being of their populations. In simple terms, the global debt crisis is not just about numbers, it's about real-life economic consequences that touch every corner of the world. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up, leave a comment, and click the button to subscribe.